I've had a lot of guys on Twitter say, real men cry, and if women can cry, men can cry too, there's nothing wrong with it. And there absolutely is something wrong with it, and I'll explain to you why. Life as a man is far more difficult than life as a woman. And one of the key components of manhood always has been and always will be, we have the ability to control ourselves and not act emotionally. Females are more emotionally driven, more emotionally impulsive than a good man should be. Saying that I felt like crying so I cried, this makes me a real man, is as stupid as me saying, well, I felt like smashing his face in, so I smashed his face in. This makes me a real man. No, the hallmark of a real man is controlling himself, controlling his emotions, and acting appropriately regardless of how he feels. And throughout human history, this is exactly how men had to live their lives. Do you think that the teenagers storming the beaches of Normandy felt like crying? Of course they did. But they also knew that that wasn't the correct thing for them to do. They had a duty to commit to, they had honor, and they did what they were supposed to do regardless of how they felt. That is the mark of a man. Weakness and absolute submission to your feelings are not the hallmarks of men. It's not the way society has ever been built. It's never been built off the backs of men who were crying their eyes out because they felt like crying. The only kind of men who advocate crying are the kind of men who do not have enough self-control to prevent themselves from crying. Because we're all human. There's times in your life, as a man, you're going to feel like crying. It's going to happen. But what you're supposed to do is not cry. Because this is a test in mental fortitude. And there is no physical fortitude, there's no financial fortitude, there's no other type of fortitude without mental fortitude. So when you feel like crying, you ensure you do not cry. And you act appropriately as a man should. The men who say no, succumb instantly to your emotions, are the kind of people who have no self-control. And let me tell you something about men who have no self-control. Men who live without self-control are the kind of men who cry when their girlfriend cheats on them, because she certainly does, because she doesn't respect the little crybaby, and she's only with you because she's ugly as fuck and she has to settle for a little soy boy pussy like you. And these guys sitting there, what they're trying to do by telling you to cry is drag you down to their level. They look at people like me, and I say, Ross, that's a big G. He's out there, he's fucking women, he's got his Lambo, he's a multi-millionaire, self-made, 6'4", 4 times kickboxing world champion, chess genius. I don't like the way he's living his life because he's kicking too much ass. You need to cry more. He's trying to drag me down to his level so I can be a little crybaby like him. And he wants everyone else who reads his tweets to be a crybaby too, because the more little weaklings he can create, the less bad he'll feel about himself. No man wants to be a little crybaby if they're honest with themselves, and no woman certainly wants to fuck a little crybaby. So don't listen to the advice of people who are living lives you wouldn't want to live. What's actually interesting is, I always use this analogy, if you could build yourself from the ground up, if you could literally just, like from a video game, just tick characteristic boxes and build yourself, nobody would choose to be a liberal soy boy. Nobody would choose to be a small, weak guy who has to cry when he gets upset. Everyone, when they get that application form from God saying build yourself for your next life, would tick tall, strong, smart, mentally tough, doesn't cry, gets pussy, rich. They tick all the things they tell me I'm bad, all the assets I have, everything that I am, they tell me is bad. But if they had the choice to have these things instantly, they would sign up. And the reason they don't have these things is because all of these things come with hard work. To be physically strong, you have to work out. That's difficult. To be financially independent, you have to be smart. That's difficult. So they don't have these things because they're hard for them to acquire, but they're very easy for them to acquire. They'd have them all. Nobody wants to be a crybaby. The mark of being a real man is not being a crybaby. The mark of a real man is walking down the street, 5 guys with knives coming up to try and rape your girlfriend, and you look at them in the face and saying, fuck you. It's not crumbling into a ball, crying your eyes out and say, I have emotions too. That just makes you a bitch.